on the same phase, and because we're doing that, it's just causing this error. So yeah, like I said, I'll send you a copy of this.
Thank you so much. So yeah, so that answered the question there. The only other question that I had to do with 876211.
Which is
That's the Valley View Bash Bish Brook Bridge. Say that 10 times fast.
Say it once.
Everything was fine as far as the amounts. No issues there. We do anticipate construction in 2023. Currently, it's listed in 2024. Is that an issue for the DOT? I wasn't sure if that had to do with the funding, if that was the reason it was out to 2024.
Yeah, and this is currently funded with off-system bridge, right?
Correct.
And a portion of it is Bridge New York, Bob, just so you know, and a portion.
Okay. And Ray, is your delivery based on a Bridge New York deadline, or just you think you'll be ready?
Yes, and we actually had put in a request for Bridge New York because it's actually from a 2018. We put on a Bridge New York. We're actually, they're sending in their final documents first part of June. So we anticipate letting it out this year and constructing in 2023.
All right, just a quick glance at the fund source. Doesn't look like that should be too much of an issue to deliver that and get that hit in that year.
Okay.
I can send you an updated copy of that as well.
All right. Thank you. Other than that, all the other requests were made on as far as the county. So thank you very much.
And do you have a specific month for that, or?
As far as construction, I do not have a specific construction as far as when that would go out and start. Because I know we're letting, and one of the reasons is the lead time on steel. So I know that we're letting, but I also know that from what the consultants are indicating, it's anywhere between 9 to 12 months trying to get steel.
Yeah, just remember on federal fiscal years, I see it's that one is 6/20 June of 2024 right now, which you're saying you were out to have it in 23. But just so you know, October of 23 is federal fiscal year 24. That's all I'm saying. Just
understood.
You know what I mean? So
correct. Yeah, I mean, we would quite honestly, we anticipate that we would be completed by the fall of 2023. So it will happen completely within the 2023 fiscal year.
Okay.
Construction will be completed in fall of 24. Is that what you said, Ray?
2023.
23. Sorry. Okay. Okay.
So.
Was there anything else, Ray, that you wanted to review, or?
No, the rest of the modifications were addressed. So thank you very much, everyone working with the county on that.
The Rob Perry, did you review the section on the Ferry Street Bridge, or?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's as much Greek as it is every other year. I read it, so I don't know if I see that's moved to 2023, which is fine. That's when it'll take place. I guess the number's right. The extra 500,000 is there. So, yes, no.
I think I still see it in 22 on my end. Is that?
I see a pre-FFY 2023. I don't know what that means.
It means FFY 22. Do you think you'll be able to get through construction this summer, or would it need to move into 23?
No, we'll be advertising in probably August or September with a construction date of March 2023.
Okay, so an advertising in August or September would mean that you'd have construction funds obligated around August or September, which would be this federal fiscal year. It doesn't need to be shovels in the ground. It just needs to be a complete PS obligated. So we'll keep them where they are for now. And if something should come up, we can always adjust that later.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. The other projects are listed on the tip and are all DOT projects, correct? Are there any? And we didn't suggest any changes or review any changes to those at the last meeting.
Correct.
Is there a need to go through each one to review those? Would you like to do that, or?
A bunch of those aren't even in Columbia County.
All right, there's just portions of them are in Columbia County, so.
Yeah, some of them might be region-wide or multi-county projects, but if there is some potential locations in Columbia County, we list them.
No, I'm fine with the way that they've been provided and presented, so I don't think we have to go through each one.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid that. Okay. Thank you. So we know that, so moving away from the tip updates, we noticed that the construction, we were talking about it before the meeting began, about the Route 9 construction, and we have Mike Duval on today to maybe he could give us a little update on what that project is going to be and the timing on that. I think everyone there was an article in the paper today about the Fairview Avenue construction, or yesterday maybe. Would you like to give us an information on that, how that the timing on that and the staging of that, and what that'll consist of?
You're talking about the construction that happened yesterday, or the big job?
The Fairview Avenue work that's going to
Just
be
the milling
done.
and paving you're doing right now.
Yeah. Well, yesterday we milled about 4/10 of a mile between Livingston Avenue or Livingston Parkway and the ShopRite Plaza entrance. And next week we're gonna do a top course. And it was really just to address the horrible pavement conditions that have existed out there since like midwinter through the spring. But it's really just a temporary thing until, you know, the larger job that's going to address the whole corridor comes out.
Okay.
Any update on that, Mike, as far as rough timing or even on the planning end, how far they've gotten on that?
I don't know how far. Nicole, are you you know where things are at in planning?
Well, that project hasn't been initiated yet, Mike, but this is kind of what we were in conjunction with this group. Basically, those changes that we just discussed for the Columbia County projects, and then realizing that there would be, if those changes were made, which they just were, there's roughly just over $1 million left balance for block funding for CCTAC. Would they be willing to, and that's to possibly contribute that towards the larger project in Greenport for pedestrian sidewalk improvements, that sort of thing, as we do that paving and drainage project.
Okay.
And that, I think, was going to be part of this meeting. Is that right, Patrice? Or
Yes, that was, we were waiting to get the numbers, see what the actual figures would be going forward that we had available to potentially contribute to that project.
Yeah, for the minutes last month, that was a comment that I had, that I thought it was important for the committee to actually have the scope as well as at least rough numbers, budget numbers, before it commits to anything.
yeah, because Mike and Amy, our pavement representative, have worked up some estimates. I think they're coming up roughly into the teens for a lot of the project, which could have multiple scopes. It could be a simple paving project with some drainage improvements. But then if you add the 1.15, I think, from Columbia County, CTAC, we could do some pedestrian improvements as well, all the way up to, I don't know what it was. I'm not looking at it right now, but roughly $13-14 million major project that the state DOT would be committing to, somewhere in that realm. That's all. Given that, how does CTAC feel about this project as far as taking priority then, and understanding that the 1.15 is a small part of this project, but it represents basically participation from the CTAC that hey, we want to see this project progress. We're willing to give some of our block funding to it. And DOT would have the bulk share of providing core funds for the rest of it. Does that sound like something that is agreeable at this? What we didn't know last time was the remainder for Columbia County, and we know that now. I think is 1.150. Nicole, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what it is. And
well, I can at least speaking for the county as far as our county, the responsibilities that the county has as far as its bridges and structures and so forth, that we continue to fall behind on our structures and the infrastructure that we have. And I know the supervisor for the town of Greenport sitting next to me, so I don't want her to, jab me in the back or anything like that. But I'm a little concerned about dedicating funds where I know that we have additional significant needs throughout the county on its existing bridge infrastructure.
And that's county infrastructure, not state infrastructure.
That's correct.
Correct. So
yeah,
And I guess part of this is when we as a county are looking at our roadway projects, we always need to be looking at complete streets and so forth. And I'm assuming obviously the DOT is doing the same thing while it's doing its programming. So why are the complete streets not programmed into the DOT funding? Or
they certainly are. It's just what you're competing with then is you're competing with the region then. So we have complete streets in Westchester that are gonna wind up being prioritized in front of this one, more than likely based on the amount of pedestrians, amount of AADT, all sorts of things that go into that. And there's only so many of those. And it doesn't mean that we couldn't still do this location. I don't know, Mike, do you remember what the paving portion was in that scheme of things? Was it $3 million, $4 million, something like that? Without the Columbia County contribution, still do the paving and drainage project a little bit scaled down and get something done out there. I don't remember how much that was. Maybe
Was it $3.5-4 million? So that was just for the paving aspect of this thing.
yes, yeah.
Right.
And then if Columbia, they took, you guys want us to take your 1.15 and put it towards county infrastructure and not do more of a complete streets like you're talking about, right, on Greenport, DOT would still commit $3 to $5 million to get the paving and drainage done, but it's probably not the project that Greenport envisions, right?
right. So why isn't DOT taking on the full responsibility, including those portions of the complete streets as far as pedestrian safety and so forth? Why is it requesting the CTAC to take on that responsibility from a funding standpoint?
Well, it's
As far as
something.
earmark.
Basically, we have communities that want improvements on the state system in their community quite frequently, and it may not be a priority by state DOT. However, they may feel strongly enough about it that they have maybe a legislative earmark that's set up for them, or some other type funding, local funding, or specialty funding, which is coming out of this new act. IIJA is going to have a lot of off-system funding. So it might not be DOT core funding that does that complete street project on our system. And it might not be a DOT priority, but that project is coming out of a specialty program. And that's where, even when you mention county infrastructure, we're seeing a growth in that off-system bridge program. You're probably going to see a lot of off-system bridge money coming, and it's going to be for the structures in your area as you have the most eligible structures around. The 1.15 that I'm referring to from the CTAC block is the STP Flex money, which is not dedicated to bridges. So it's a little bit different fund source there. We wouldn't be touching the off-system bridge fund source for Greenport because it wouldn't qualify for that, right?
Okay.
What's the STP Flex?
The flexible STP, a surface transportation program, block grant, flexible funding is federal funding, but it's the most, as its name kind of implies, it's the most flexible source of federal funding. You could use it to pave a road, you could use it to rehab a bridge, you could use it to make pedestrian improvements or complete streets improvements in an area. I don't know if that answers any of your question or just raises more, but.
Ron?
Oh,
Yeah, Bob, has there been, I mean, I hear what you're saying and I'm open ears to the consideration of it, but I'm listening to what Ray's saying too about the need the county has there yet been a kind of a study or a plan done by the state so that you can tell us right now, this is what the state's ready to do. And if the county would like to have additional things, better sidewalks or something, you know, this is where we can chip in. I'm not hearing an exact breakdown of that. Is there any kind of a study that you can share with us that tells us this is what the state's prepared to do? And then the county and or the town could say, this is acceptable, or we would like to see more.
What we could probably, rather than a study, I don't necessarily know that the study is particularly needed at this point because we have a fairly accurate estimate that was broken down by Mike and Amy and a couple others, and it has different components to it for a total job, and I don't have it in front of me, for a total job of roughly $13-14 million there for doing everything. And there's components of that. Paving component might be 3 or 4 million of that. So we could sit down with that and say DOT is committed to doing this paving and drainage and such, but maybe not some of the other components that the county might not actually want, actually, as far as different turn lanes and things like that.
Well, those are the things I'd like to see in a plan, you know, a breakout of exactly what you're planning. And then, you know, so we have an itemized list of this cost this cost that. It can all be budget numbers, but maybe what you're planning does suffice what the town and county needs on State Route 9 there in Fairview, or there could be more that we'd like to see. And at that point in time, we could make a better determination. Do we want to help contribute?
Yeah, and that should not be a problem with that preliminary estimate. The problem also that we do encounter from time to time is we go ahead with the initial project proposal, which would be the next step. And then we suddenly find out that the local municipality objects to curbing, channelization, or things like that, so all of a sudden the local residents are up in arms that the state is doing this, that maybe the county wants to do, but the residents don't want it. And that's why we look for buy-in from the community as early as possible so that we're all on the same page with, hey, we need these improvements. This is what we want to do, and this is what we can work together to get accomplished.
So that being said, so even if, again, understanding perhaps not a study, but is there a scope overview that identifies the various components that are the DOT plans on implementing along with those costs, as well as those additional costs and those additional features that it may not be willing or outside of their anticipated scope?
Yeah, I would think just from the item descriptions, and Mike, feel free to chime in from the breakdown of each section of that estimate, you can kind of get a feel of what the $4 million is for. I don't know what type of course of paving, and then there's so many millions for drainage improvements. and then curbing sidewalk costs X amount of linear mile, and it would be this much. How do you feel about that estimate, Mike?
Yeah, excuse me a moment. I just pulled it up here. Yeah, I mean, there's a paving component. There's drainage. Oh, where'd it go? Yeah, there's just a hair over 4 million for pavement. There was some traffic signal work. Just shy of $700,000 worth of traffic signal work. Curbs and sidewalk. When I put a rough scope together, I had to make some assumptions. I assumed a sidewalk on one side of the road and a shoulder on the opposite side of the road, because we can design a shoulder that's wide enough to accommodate pedestrians and bicyclists. So curb and sidewalk was like 1.9 million. There's some utility work, about $2.8 million in drainage work. Let's see.
So Michael, can that be submitted to the CTAC? Can
Right.
copy of that be
I'd
made?
like to see is,
Let's see.
Is that something like you're talking about, Ron, that you would like to?
yeah,
Yeah,
you're asking us for buy-in, but yet we don't know what we're buying, so.
So I had submitted, Bob, I had submitted this to Amy, and I don't know if the planning group had massaged any of this, or if they're just still working with what I had put together. So I don't know.
Yeah, we just had to be careful of things like centerline turn lanes and stuff like that we may not have included. Our traffic and safety group has to look at things and decide whether we don't want to do certain things that would hamper potential safety impacts out there.
Yeah, I think that'd be helpful. And again, I think that would answer some of the questions and again, provide the committee a scope as well. So that way we understand the scope. I think that could be very helpful to us.
Okay.
At what point in time is community input considered in the DOT planning process to determine costs and what types of enhancements are included? Is if the TAC is involved, does it change that element of community input, or is it the same?
I wouldn't say it changes it, but the more input and support we get, the better. And that's certainly a public involvement meeting at the beginning of the project. But again, that would be a project that would have an initial project proposal and a project manager,
Right.
and then they would start that community involvement process. Some of our projects are brought about by the community, so they've already started before that stage. But we definitely want to get it in there early with the community to see. We don't want to get to a PS&E and have a set of plans that is going to create problems with the community. That's what we definitely want to avoid. So we want that input as early as possible.
I believe that was the case like some 20 years ago. Wasn't it?
Yes.
I know that at one time the region had progressed a job that was, I believe it was 2 lanes in each direction and center turn lanes, and it was going to require extensive taking of property and right up, Fairview. I mean, it was a very, very large project. I think, Bob, I think that Ken Furness worked on that at the time. So, Ken's been gone a long time now. So, but it was a huge job, and it was going to impact a lot of property owners. So this what I was working up is not something like that. It's substantially scaled back from something like that.
Yeah, so in order, again, for the committee to buy in and provide support, at least a brief description or scope, you know, again, I understand the IPP and, you know, obviously not getting to that point, but at least on a preliminary basis is, so that way the committee and the members can get a better understanding of what is involved. So quite honestly, the full support of the committee then can be provided to the DOT for that project once we have an understanding, a better understanding of the extent of it.
Okay, yes, we can work on that and have that out to you fairly quickly.
Looks fairly quickly.
Right, because in the end of the day, we have to be able to justify to the local communities why we're going to tell them, no, you can't have this repair done on your road or bridge because, you know, we're supplementing a DOT project on a DOT road.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also though, but the bridge funding, I think you're gonna be scrambling for candidates for it because honestly, there's going to be a huge local focus from the federal government on local bridges. So hopefully, the biggest problem you're going to have with that is getting the bridges out in time.
Okay.
Well, Ron's got one ready for you.
I have that one, yep.
I need a time for rather quickly. You know, I need, like, what's rather quickly mean?
So the Supervisor Eldridge wondering, as far as getting it out quickly,
What-
Bob, when do you think that might be coming back to us as far as that information?
We could probably do it by next week. What do you think? By a week from Friday, a week from tomorrow, was set a date. I'll send it to Patrice, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a short week though, so just remember that.
Yeah.
Next week is.
Yeah, I'm on vacation next week, so
Oh, okay.
you can
Well, I
still
can
send
still
it. I'll
send it to
forward
you.
it. I can forward it. And then how much time would everyone like to review, to have another meeting a month from now or sooner than that, or?
I think in a month would be great.
Okay. That should be enough time, Bob, then, and Mike, for you guys to get that information back to us. And I'll distribute it to the TAC.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We'll have a meeting in a month. Okay, sounds like a good plan.
Start.
We've had more meetings this month than we have the last 10 years.
I know. Well, we're getting a lot accomplished.
I'll take a year. I'm in for 19. I'll take a year.
I don't have anything else on the agenda. Is there anything else that anyone would like to discuss?
No, I'd like to thank the committee as well as all the folks at the region as far as working with the county on making those modifications, especially because it's a tough time as far as the way pricing is coming in on our projects and so forth. So